Hi, I'm Elizabeth Ryan, coming to you from the EHS Management Forum in Tucson. I'm standing here with Mike Wallace, Director of Focal Point USA, part of the Global Reporting Initiative. Mike, earlier this year, Focal Point USA launched at the New York Stock Exchange. How is this event significant in the history, or the evolution rather, of corporate sustainability reporting?
Well, Elizabeth, sustainability has been around for quite a long time, and GRI has been around for more than a dozen years. It was actually created and started in Boston, but moved overseas. And because of that, we just haven't had as much attention here in the U.S. as we've gotten in other parts of the world. The market has matured tremendously in probably the last 3 to 5 years. We're seeing a lot of financial players involved in this game now, if you will, and looking at these issues. And everyone knows about Dow Jones Sustainability Index and FTSE for Good and these various ratings and rankings that are out there. But when we started to head back to the U.S. to put this office in place, we had a really interesting connection to the New York Stock Exchange. And they themselves were working on their second GRI report themselves. And as an entity who lists 8,000 companies and has listing requirements for those companies, it's interesting to think about what they might be thinking of for the future of listing requirements. So when we talked to them about hosting us and throwing this party for us, and they said yes, it was a huge win for GRI, but it's a huge win for the sustainability effort in general, because anyone that's out there trying to make the business case to be able to point to that event and to point the GRI being launched at that event here in the U.S., it's a big signal to the market that this is here to stay. Sustainability does make business sense, and if the New York Stock Exchange is getting on board, what does it mean for the future of all of us?
Every year, EHS managers receive dozens of requests for ESG data. How is GRI different?
Well, GRI is different in that I think the original inception of GRI was meant to standardize the way all organizations talk about sustainability, and not just the energy, waste, and water piece, much broader than just the E, if you will. As that evolved over the last 12 to 15 years, more and more people are getting interested in this issue, and people love to make lists of the top companies and the bottom companies. Look at the Fortune Most Admired. Even Fortune Most Admired has a CSR component to it. So we see literally hundreds of rankings and ratings and listings that are out there. A couple of them just popped over the last couple of weeks. GRI is different in that it was meant to be the kind of end-all be-all for reporting, for a company to be able to address all of the common things that pertain to sustainability. It's different in that it was created by companies and nonprofits and stakeholders from all over the world, sitting together and discussing what does sustainability mean and what should people report on when they do report. Rankings and ratings and listings come in and pick and choose certain things that they're most interested in, or their constituents or end users are interested in. So GRI has actually benefited most of these ratings firms that are out there because we've been pulling data in a very standardized way for a dozen years. And most ratings firms will tell you that. They'll admit that GRI has been very helpful to their business model. But many ratings firms have their own little black box where they have little secret ways of doing things. Maybe they have some proprietary data they collect, or maybe they send a survey out to someone and collect some information, or maybe they just have a different way of looking at things and they've been able to come up with their own approach to looking at these issues. GRI should be a solution for most companies. It is a way that you can send a story to a ratings firm and say, look, here's the majority of my story. Please take from this, and I'll try and fill in some of the blanks after you've done your homework.
Yesterday we heard from Andrew Winston that compliance in this new era is less about meeting government regulations as it is meeting stakeholder expectations. To what extent is transparency about meeting stakeholder expectations, or to what extent are there actual business benefits that companies can derive from disclosing this information?
We see and hear a variety of anecdotal stories from companies directly about the business benefit of looking at these issues and looking at it very holistically. The GRI guidelines, like I said, they cover a lot of different issues. For U.S. companies moving outside of the environmental area and into the human rights and supply chain and some of the other labor issues, it gets a little touchy for some U.S. companies. But we hear repeatedly that going through this process, going in and digging into the various silos of a company and getting this information and extracting it, really makes a company think more holistically about their overall performance and put things into a different story. When it comes to stakeholders, most definitely. I mean, it's one thing to respond to a regulation, and of course, right now in this economy and in this political climate, there's not going to be a lot of room for regulation right now. But we've had some amazing things happen just last week. Microsoft announced themselves that they want vendors to produce a sustainability report. That means they're asking suppliers, will you please produce a sustainability report? And then the underlying text of that same statement was, and we would prefer it to be a GRI report. On Friday, the GSA, General Services Administration, the largest procurement body in the world, announced on their website that they're doing an internal GRI training. And in that announcement, it talks about the fact that they themselves are going to do a GRI report and that they're looking at how these issues relate to the supply chain that they manage. It's the world's largest supply chain. If you think Walmart was amazing, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Wow, this sounds really interesting. I look forward to hearing more about that.
Great.
Thanks very much for taking the time to stop by.
Sure thing. Thank you.